Oh, how the mighty have fallen. That exactly is how England would be feeling right now after having lost the 5-match test series to India 4-1, despite the fact that after the first test, things were looking very, very good for them. They had taken a 1-0 lead. They had come back to register a victory because remember, they had in fact conceded a first innings lead. Despite that, still went on to win the test match. Things were looking rosy until they weren't. Now, 5 test matches later, having lost a series 4-1 and with Bazball as such having failed both of its main tests, which is A, retain the Ashes, and B, come and win a test series in India, there's obviously going to be a lot of questions surrounding what it is that the England team will do next. And right after the match, Ben Stokes did front up to a few of those questions when speaking at the post-match presentation. And one of the things he first pointed out that does merit a little bit of, let's say, a debate or analysis was when he talked about what exactly it was that they lost the series, or why exactly it is that they lost the series. To begin with, their team's or the opposition's superiority. He said that since the first test match, we have to admit that India, we have been outplayed by the better team in the series. The better team in the series naturally being India, and Ben Stokes, to everyone's surprise, being rather gracious in defeat, conceding that India were in fact the better side throughout the series after the first test match, and saying that, look, we were outplayed, we just have to concede that. And he in fact said, he said, we're man enough to admit that we were outplayed by the better team for the next 4 test matches. That is the exact words. And it is interesting because, again, a lot of times one of the things that people associate with Bazball era England is their bluster. Oh, we'll chase 800. Oh, we're confident of batting in an aggressive way no matter the situation. And whatever the conditions, we can do anything. That has always been the message that comes through. And even when they do lose, it's often down to circumstances beyond them. So hearing them say that, hey, listen, you know what? We did lose to the team that were better. Maybe it's a start of a little bit changing here or there, or maybe it isn't, because he did also have some thoughts about how exactly it is that they should be approaching series in the way forward. In fact, one of his reasons why he felt that they lost this series was because sometimes they weren't quite, let's say, aggressive enough. In fact, his exact words were that looking at the series, there were some small moments when we were unable to wrestle momentum back. When we were unable to wrestle momentum back. Now, this is his indirect way of saying that the times when England were in a situation where it seemed like all the chips were down, they were unable to turn things around. And now, to be fair, this too, I need to add, goes, against, let's say, how it is the first test match went about, where England were trailing after the first innings, but then turned things around. Every single test match after that, however, you can say that England have found themselves in some kind of position where they could have been winning, but they've only gone on to squander it. And as Stokes himself says, that they weren't able to wrestle back momentum when things weren't going their way. By contrast, India were able to ride the wave of momentum when things were going good, and when they weren't going as good, had the resolve to dig deep, fight back, and then eventually wrest away the momentum, ensuring that they stayed in a good position. Now, obviously, a lot of this will raise questions about the future of England's style of play, Bazball, whatever it is you want to call it, because the fact of the matter is, as I mentioned earlier in the video, they were unable to retain the Ashes. That went on to be a 2-2 series draw, which meant that Australia retained the Ashes by the barest of margins, but it didn't return to England. And now, in the 5-match test series in India, they've been comprehensively beaten 4-1. So what does the future hold for Bazball? Well, he didn't really give away a lot of hints, but one thing he did say was that you need to be positive enough to take these risks against quality players, and sometimes it could lead to your downfall. This means that they did come in with the intention of taking the risks, and that's no big surprise given that that is pretty much how Bazball has operated since day one. Be positive, be aggressive, take risks. If they come off great, if they don't, no problem, go back and do it again anyway. What it also means is that they're not quite giving up on Bazball just yet. They're not giving up on the aggression, despite whatever it is you may have seen in the 4th and 5th tests at times, where it seemed like their gumption had completely deserted them. According to Stokes, they're going to continue being aggressive, but I'm sure that there's going to be some kind of an introspection and maybe, let's say, an effort made to play more situationally, to pick and choose your moments to be aggressive rather than it being plan A, B, C, right down to alphabet Z. Yes, it's good that you can take an aggressive stance of cricket, and it's something that England desperately needed after the absolute lows towards the end of Joe Root's captaincy era. But at this point, Bazball risked being just a small little fad that came quickly, won over a few people, but then in the end fizzled out. If England want to keep Bazball going, it needs to evolve. It won't die out, but it needs to evolve and become a little bit more smart. Combine aggressiveness with smart, old-fashioned test cricket, and you have the recipe for a very good test team. Continue playing the way they played against India though, and all you have is a recipe for disaster. But that's how I feel about it. What do you guys think about Ben Stokes' comments after the series? Well, you can let me know that in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, tap that bell icon, follow us also on social media. We're on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Don't forget to download the Sports app, and if you're already on the channel, go ahead, check out some other videos we put up as well. For now, from my side though, it's goodbye.